Okay, hi, I am Naomi Vafiadis from Horrorverse. Hi, Felipe.
Hey Naomi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm a very big fan of your work.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Of course. So I want to start off. Obviously, Rosario is your feature debut, which is so exciting. Huge congrats. I know that you have a background in shorts, so I want to know what the jump was like from shorts to now doing your first feature.
It was pretty natural because I've been doing horror shorts since I was a kid. Even before that, I would draw legends and folk tales and stories that I really latched onto. And then as a kid, running around with mom's camcorder, I would, you know, tie prosthetics to my dog. That was the movie monster, or flood my parents' bathtub with fake blood. So I always loved these type of projects. And from there, it led to bigger and better shorts, and transitioning into the feature. What was really unique and special about it was being able to shoot the bulk of it, even though it is a New York story. We shot in New York. We shot the bulk of it in South America, in Colombia, where I was born, and where I'm from. So it was just very full circle to go back and make this first feature there with this incredible cast and crew. It was really like a dream come true.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love that it's full circle for you as well, right? It's like you've been working in film and in horror for your whole life, and now it's like this, like coming home almost. That's amazing.
Yes, exactly. It really felt like a homecoming.
That's awesome. So, something that I really appreciated about the movie when I was watching it were like the undertones of grief, and there's the family tension, and obviously the immigrant experience. There are these more serious topics that are being covered in the film in such a fantastic way. You did a great job of showing those. And I'm wondering what the mix was like for you between showing those themes and staying true to them, but also staying in, the scares and the horror aspect of it all.
Yeah, I mean, this screenplay was written by Alan Trezo's an incredible writer, and the moment I read it, the thing I really latched onto, of course, there's the humor and the great scares and the roller coaster ride of it all, but there's also a deeper theme that I think you're touching on, which is grief and sacrifice, the sacrifices that our parents and our grandparents make for us to be where we are, to succeed, and the facade we put on that sometimes causes us to forget our roots and our ancestry. That was like the real horror of this movie. And to me, it went hand in hand with the more kind of fun, bombastic horror because it's all just part of the same idea of fear, really.
Absolutely, yeah. Wow, okay. And I need to touch on your short Milk Teeth a little bit because I'm a big, big fan. And I think that the story is so heartbreaking. It ruined me in a million different ways. And I feel like Milk Teeth and both Rosario have this fear that feels very personal. It feels lived in, and it's almost like a fear that touches you early in your life and you never really grow out of. You carry it with you. And so I want to ask you, what is the first thing that terrified you maybe in your life that started your love for horror and maybe something that appears in your films today, if there is something?
That's such a good question, and thank you for bringing that up because I do love working with kids. I think when they are uninhibited, they're the best actors. They're so natural and so compelling. So even though Rosario, we start the journey with young Rosario, who's a 10-year-old going through her first communion. Um, and for me, I think it comes from I was introduced to horror at an early age, maybe too young, in terms of just grandparents, grandpa's campfire tales, where he would turn on the fire and tell the story of the monster in the woods or the guardian angels in the stars. And I just loved that folklore, and it would terrify me, but also fascinate me. I would, again, kind of draw out these creatures and build them in clay.
Hmm.
That was kind of the earliest. In terms of movies, just things I caught on TV. I saw Chucky way too young. I saw a Goosebumps TV series that I think I was, on retrospect, it's pretty like goofy and fun. But when I watched it as a kid, I was horrified. Uh, but it was always a passion of mine.
Amazing. I love that. And you could tell that it's like a genuine love that you've had your entire life. And I love that because as a horror fan myself, it's cool to connect with people that have also just been, infatuated by horror their entire lives. So that's very cool to hear. Um, Something that I really loved creatively, creative choice wise, was how you didn't over explain the actual demon in Rosario. I feel like the mythology behind the demon, there was still some mystery kind of around it. And I love when that happens in horror because I feel like there's the fear that's planted in the viewer's mind, and then you kind of let them run wild with their imagination about where this demon came from and what the background is. And it can go in a million different ways, but it's an individual experience for every viewer. So I was kind of wondering, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but if it was, how that approach is kind of like taken for you, like what's not being said, what's not being shown, and planting that seed in your viewers.
No, it's something, it's a really great observation and something the writer and I talked about pretty extensively. Cobayende is a real spirit in Palo Mayombe, and to me, it's real. I mean, this spirit is out there in this kind of realm. We took precautions not to summon it onto our set, but it is something that, we had a real richness to draw on, but we also wanted to do our own version where this creature, the way it tormented Rosario was by basically taking the form of a scorned spirit and tormenting her and replaying her guilt and her grief and the experiences that her ancestors went through, these sacrifices they made for her to be where she is. So all of that informed the creature design, the aesthetic, but again, kind of without going too far into the backstory. I think it was really about Rosario and her family's journey.
Exactly. That's what I felt as well. It was like the creature was there and for sure played a huge role, but the focus was the human and the human element of the story. So it's very cool. I have to ask about the one apartment setting. That was fascinating to me because you filmed pretty much most of the movie in one little apartment, and it feels huge. It also feels claustrophobic, everything at once. And how did that decision shape the movie for you?
Yeah, and it was something that from the script phase, it got me so excited about this film because when you're contained like that, you are able to be really creative with the scares. You have to be to keep it
Yeah.
interesting. So we split it into sequences and had it, each sequence had a different visual language, aesthetic, lighting, flavor, different types of scares, different kind of genre feel to it. So it was very, much a dynamic kind of experience. Even though it's one apartment, it's really split into all these little nooks and crannies. And it's also like a Russian doll where you're discovering what's further inside the apartment, what's inside that closet, what's inside that shelf, what's above the hallways. Like all of that you discover across this film and hopefully keeps it really claustrophobic. And even though a lot of it does take place in that apartment, we wanted to contrast that with her world, which is one of Wall Street and wealth and glamour and glass and steel and cold colors versus grandma's world that is warm and rich and textured and cultural and really claustrophobic and terrifying.
That's incredible. I love that. You did a fantastic job with the one setting. That was very cool. I want to close this off and ask you a question as a horror fan yourself. So, what is one horror trope that you would die on a hill defending? You love it forever and it's your favorite. And then, what is one horror trope you would love to never see again in your life?
That's such a great question. Let me think about that for a moment. Horror trope that I love. I love it, and I don't know if this is a trope or not, but ever since Scream, I love it when the characters kind of call out that they're in a horror movie and they're smart and they're aware. Like halfway through our film, Rosario says, "F this, F you, I'm leaving," and she just leaves. And I love it when characters are just a little bit more self-aware. When characters in horror movies have seen horror movies and know what's up, I think that's great. I think that's fun. A trope that I would lose. About that. I think this is like I think like weak kind of characters or over sexualized like lead females. Like for me with Rosario, the whole idea was that she was someone who was bold and smart and a direct Latina who we don't really see on screen before, like the ones I grew up around. That really excited about me about the film, and Emerald Tubia does an amazing job. She's in it from minute one to 90 and it really just leads the movie.
Absolutely. She did an incredible job, and so did you. Congratulations again. And I'm so excited for the world to see this movie.
Thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it.
You too, Felipe. Have a great day.
See you. Have a good one.